Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown, the game preview episode, my favorite episode of the week. Ravens versus Browns this Sunday at 1 o'clock in Cleveland, and it's the 100th episode of the Flock Rundown. Started this channel in late May, early June, and we're 100 episodes in. It's crazy. I appreciate you guys for supporting so much and just giving it a chance. And I love coming on here to talk with you guys and keep growing this community and keep talking Ravens football, So we'll get into today's episode. We're also doing another giveaway, so just watch this entire episode. Somewhere in this episode, I will ask a question, and then you just have to comment your answer and like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Closest answer wins. You can go over, you can be under, it doesn't matter, but closest answer wins $50 right after the game. Just make sure you're checking your YouTube comments. Let's just dive right into the game. There are no weather concerns this week. I haven't been adding those into my preview, but after last week, kind of got snuck up on by the rain and figured I'd start looking at the weather for the game, but there's no concern. It's supposed to be sunny and like 60, 70 degrees, so no concerns for the weather at all. Should be a nice day in Cleveland on Sunday. And that sound like a broken record every week with the same advantages and disadvantages, but here we go again. I would say that the Browns' biggest advantage heading into this game is their D-line versus the Ravens' offense in general, but mainly offensive line. We've been struggling with pass rush. Houston was blitzing a lot and they were getting home and causing problems for our offense. We did a really good job in Cincinnati, but they don't have quite the same edge rush. They have more of an interior rush, and we were able to pick that up and slow Reader down and have a great day in Cincinnati, especially on offense. But then last week again, another disruptive line versus the Colts with Buckner and Pay, and they were able to wreak havoc. They were able to disrupt our offensive line, get some pressure in Lamar's face, and force him to not make the best reads and hold on to the ball a little too much and be a little careless with the ball and have some missed throws because of it. And just the pressure affects the game everywhere. And this week will not be any easier. If anything, it might be the hardest challenge we've had just as a defensive unit as a whole. Shout out to Cleveland this year. Their defense is balling, and I'm concerned, especially that defensive line. You got Myles Garrett, you got Zadarius Smith. We know Zadarius, and we know Myles just from playing against him so much. They have an incredible rush, and our offensive line's been banged up. Now, we did get great news this week. Ronnie Stanley and Tyler Linderbaum have returned to practice, so I would expect one of them to play, if not both of them to play, and that would be huge. We need all the offensive line help we can get. We're going to have to make sure that we're throwing some bodies at Myles Garrett to disrupt his rush if possible. And we got to get the ball out of Lamar's hands quick. He needs to be decisive, and we need to be smart about the routes that we're running. I saw a couple scenarios last week where we were running a lot of the same depth routes, so if we need a first down, we got 3 different guys running 10-yard routes. Well, let's just cut in Andrews for a 5-yard route underneath so Lamar has an option, you know what I mean? Just layer the depth so that they can't all just drop the same distance, and it's easier on a defense when everyone is the same depth. When you're dropping in coverage and then you have a guy underneath and a guy deep and the guy running that intermediate route, now you have to make a decision. Usually the underneath guy is open, And we need some depth routes like that. We need to make sure that Lamar has an option to get the ball out of his hands fast, use the running backs in the passing game. We're going to have to make sure that we're being smart, because this is going to be the best defense we've played. In our offense, outside of the Cincinnati game, or outside a couple quarters of the Cincinnati game, our offense has not looked great this year. We're missing some guys. Hopefully Stanley and Linderbaum can come back. That would be a huge help to this offensive line, especially against this defensive line. But getting into the next set of matchups, the Ravens pass game versus the Browns secondary, in this game particular, is another advantage for the Browns, in my opinion. They have Denzel Ward. They have Newsome. Their secondary is legit. They've been playing great, along with that pass rush as well. I know they go hand in hand. Now, they're facing an offense that is also very talented, but also very banged up. Now, we talked about the offensive line, but our receiver room is now also banged up. Odell Beckham Jr. has an ankle injury. Rashad Bateman has a hamstring injury. And neither of them have practiced this week. Odell didn't practice at all last week either. So I'm not expecting these guys to play. I'm just not, which sucks. Our stacked receiving core and stacked offense is not fully available. Surprise, surprise. So more weight's going to fall on Lamar. More weight's going to fall on the run game. More weight's going to fall on Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers and Aguilar. And I know those guys are capable of winning this game. I'm not saying that we have no chance or anything like that. I think the majority of people are picking the Browns in this game. They're 3-point favorites. But I'm not saying that we have no chance. I still think this offense is talented enough, especially when you have Lamar Jackson at the helm. He can make things happen that you just can't plan for. And Zay Flowers is an incredibly talented receiver that we continue to have heavily involved in this offense. But I think Mark has a chance to get more involved in this game. I still give the edge in this matchup to Cleveland's secondary. I give their defense as a whole a massive edge against our offense. I think that our offense is going to struggle to move the ball again, and there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. It doesn't mean we can't score. Doesn't mean we can't make a big play here and there. Doesn't mean we're not able to put together two great drives where we can get points. I still think those things are very possible. I'm just saying, looking at that Browns defense in their first 3 weeks, they're incredible. And we've been struggling on offense. So the edge goes to the Browns defense for sure. And I still think their secondary has an edge over our pass offense right now, especially with Bateman and Odell not going to play. That hurts. We may have to rely a bit more on the ground game again, and that gets me into my next point. I think Gus Edwards and Justice Hill will return. They both were practicing this week, and that should be a nice lift for the run game. We saw Kenyon Drake and Melvin Gordon and some Gus Edwards last week. He got hurt, but we saw a lot of Kenyon Drake, Melvin Gordon, and this week I think we'll get back to Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and then a little bit of Melvin Gordon or Drake, whoever they call up, or both. But I like that our run game can kind of return to form. The issue is the Browns are barely allowing any rushing yards at all. And that gets me into today's giveaway question. How many team rushing yards will the Ravens have versus the Browns on Sunday? Collective team rushing yards. That's Lamar Jackson and all the running backs or receiver if they run. Team rushing yards at the end of the game. What's the number? Comment your answer, like the video, subscribe. You can go over, you can go under, it doesn't matter. Closest answer wins. Make sure you're checking your YouTube replies after the game. Just to help you out a little bit, the last 3 weeks, the Browns allowed 75 yards, 55 yards, and 26 yards. And that was to the Bengals, Steelers, and Titans. So 75 yards, 55 yards, and 26 yards rushing. So no one's been able to run on this team, but I think we're going to have to. Getting back into the point with Stanley and or Linderbaum coming back, with Gus Edwards and Justice Hill being available, and Lamar Jackson, who led our team in rushing last week anyway, so he's obviously a huge factor in this run game. But my point is, we're going to have to get this run game going. I think we'll be able to pass for sure here and there. It's not like we're not going to be able to pass at all. But we're going to have to run the ball. We're going to have balance. We're going to have to control the clock. We're going to have to make sure we're playing the time of possession game and the field position game. And I think this is going to be an ugly, close battle. So it's been a lot of edge to the Browns in this episode so far, at least the first half of this episode. But on the flip side, I think our defense has a lot of edge versus their offense. And that's why I think this game is going to be a close, ugly game. Our defense has been balling this year. As many people as we have had out on offense and defense, our defense is able to stay pretty consistent. Our offense has not. Our offense has not looked great. Our defense has been solid week after week, and that's just a testament to our depth, to the guys we have, to Mike McDonald, to Harbaugh. We've had smart game plans. We've been able to utilize creative blitzes to cause problems for the other team, and I think our defense has been doing enough. In this particular matchup, Deshaun Watson looked a lot better last week. Last week was the first game that they didn't have Nick Chubb, so I was curious to see how that offense changes. Obviously, not having Nick Chubb is a huge loss for that offense, and not that Jerome Ford's bad, but nobody's Nick Chubb, right? He just runs the ball so hard, and you can rely on your run game to kind of go through him. And without him, a little bit more pressure and weight and responsibility goes to Deshaun Watson. But last week, he handled it well. He threw to Amari Cooper the majority of the time. So we're going to have to make sure that we're honing in on that. We need to bring some pressure to Watson, make him uncomfortable. And I think he'll play. But another thing to take into account is Deshaun Watson has been limited this week in practice. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. He's not throwing a lot of balls. I guess today he went out and threw a pass or two and then went to the trainers. So he's questionable for Sunday. I guess there's a chance that he doesn't play. I am assuming that he's going to play still. But there is a chance that we have no Deshaun Watson and they got to turn to the rookie. And if that's the case, then I give our defense a massive edge. Right now, I think our defense does have an edge on the Cleveland offense. But if they have a rookie quarterback at the helm, then I definitely give our defense a huge edge, and I think that would change the game entirely. And we may be getting a huge lift. Marcus Williams is full practice, which has been the surprise of the week. I did not expect Marcus Williams to be back this soon. I even said, I think in an earlier video this week, that we probably wouldn't have Marcus. I was hoping Marlon Humphrey would be able to return. And I think it's going to be the opposite. Marlon Humphrey's still not practicing at all. Obviously, his injury's taking a little bit longer than we thought, than the team thought. But Marcus Williams may be ready to go. We can still keep Geno Stone in some packages and move Kyle Hamilton around. Kyle Hamilton's a secret weapon, man. You know, he can move him anywhere in the field. He can play traditional back-end safety and then also just bring him to the line of scrimmage like we did multiple times last week. He had 3 first-half sacks last week against the Colts because of the disguised blitzes that he was coming on, and I think that he's a perfect role for that. He can cover tight ends. He can cover Njoku. He can play back-end, like I said, deep safety. Kyle Hamilton can be everywhere, and having Marcus Williams just kind of opens more possibilities there. So that could be a huge lift for the secondary if Marcus Williams is able to go. I just think that our defense is going to present some challenges. Our pass rush has been kind of underwhelming, but we don't have Owe or Ajabo either. But Jadeveon Clowney's been balling, and he's facing his old team that he just came from, so I know he'll be motivated. He'll be ready to go. He's kind of in a premier pass role. He's kind of in a premier pass rush role for us right now. Jadeveon Clowney's playing an important role, and he's playing at a really high level. And until we get Ajabo and Owe back, I'm not expecting them to play because they haven't practiced. So until we get them back, it's Clowney's got a lot of weight on his shoulders in this pass rush game. We also just signed Kyle Van Noy, and with how highly Mike McDonald spoke of him, I'm expecting Van Noy to play some meaningful minutes this Sunday right away. And I don't know what exactly to expect from him just because we haven't seen him on the field in this Ravens defense. But I know he is a veteran. He has a ton of experience. He has a ton of knowledge about football and defenses in general. And I expect him to be able to go out there and be versatile. That's what he does. You know, he can drop in coverage. He can hold the edge. He can rush inside. You know, he can do everything. We'll see what we got with Kyle Van Noy. I think our pass rush is okay right now as a whole unit, but I still think we can get some pressure. We can clog the holes in the run game too. You know, we got Michael Pierce and Justin Matabike up there. Jadeveon Clowney's a beast in the run game. Kyle Van Noy's very smart. And then the linebackers, Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, best linebacker duo in the entire NFL. Roquan Smith's the best linebacker in the entire NFL. And they just wreak havoc. It's hard to have anything short. It's hard to run the ball. And Zach Moss busted a few edge runs last week. I think he had like 3 or 4 longer runs that put him over 100 yards and made him look like he had a great day. He did have a great day. It's not made him look like he had a great day. He did. But I think that if we could just limit those long explosive runs, which hasn't been a problem, I think that was kind of a fluke last week. I think that we'll be able to contain Cleveland's run game, and I think our defense has an edge overall against their offense as well. So I'm expecting an ugly, classic AFC North game. The only thing we're missing is probably some ugly cold weather, but I think that both sides of the ball have dominant defenses. Cleveland probably does have more of a dominant defense, at least right now. The Ravens are missing so many guys. So I give the edge to Cleveland's defense, but I think both offenses are going to struggle a little bit. I think that both defenses are going to have some success, and that's just naturally going to make this a tight, low-scoring game. I think the Ravens find a way. Coming off a loss, I think we find a way to score late and kick a late field goal. Tucker's going to make this one. It's not going to be a 61-yarder. And I think the Ravens win 23-20. I think it's an ugly game. Both offenses are going to struggle throughout, and I think it's 23-20. Ravens beat the Browns. They rebound from the loss to the Colts last week, and they get another crucial division win. It could go either way, though. I would not be shocked if the Browns win. Can't wait for Sunday. I'll go live right after the game to give my initial raw, emotional post-game response. So make sure you tune in for the live. Hop in the chat with me. Thank you guys for tuning in to the 100th episode of the Flock Rundown. Thank you guys for supporting this channel so much over the last few months. We're just getting started, but enjoy your weekend and have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.